want to fight.
I never abuse you.
You don't want to fight.
I never
Whoa.
Jake Paul just got attacked on the street by a total stranger, and let me tell you, it was one brutal brawl. Now, before you start feeling too bad for Jake, let's just say this random guy wasn't messing around. He landed a solid punch that left Jake with a nice little bruise under his eye. A reminder that challenging the toughest guy on the planet might not have been his smartest move. And the best part? This wasn't some professional boxer. It was just an ordinary guy with some serious muscle who decided Jake needed a bit of humbling. The dude got arrested pretty quickly, but honestly, you can't help but respect the nerve it took to step up like that. And wait till you hear why this guy went after Jake in the first place. You might just end up feeling the same way I do.
I lose faith in my generation and my peers and like us as a society and in a world just when I see that type of stuff and that type of stupidity.
But before you jump to any conclusions, grab that coffee and let's break this down from both sides. So Jake Paul's journey from a YouTube sensation to the guy everyone loves to hate has been one heck of a roller coaster. When he first decided to step into the boxing ring and call out none other than Mike Tyson, it was a move that had everyone talking. Bold? Absolutely. Crazy? Maybe. But you have to admit it caught our attention. Here was this internet celebrity with millions of followers throwing down the gauntlet to a living legend. It was the classic underdog story that, for a fleeting moment, had people thinking. For a while, it seemed like Jake was actually pulling it off. The buzz was real, and he was soaking up the newfound respect like it was the best thing since sliced bread. People were curious, maybe even a little impressed, by this YouTuber turned boxer who wasn't afraid to step into the ring with a heavyweight icon. But, oh boy, that honeymoon phase didn't last long.
You heard it right, motherfucker. I'm fighting Mike Tyson.
You see, instead of letting his fists do the talking, Jake couldn't keep his mouth shut. His non-stop trash talk and over-the-top self-promotion quickly turned from entertaining to downright annoying. What started as a bit of curiosity from the public quickly morphed into pure irritation. And when Jake decided to go all in on mocking Tyson, making fun of his age, health, and even questioning his toughness, that was the final straw for a lot of people. The guy just didn't know when to quit, and instead of building on the respect he was starting to earn, he tore it all down with his big mouth. And let's be real, Jake's attitude didn't just rub people the wrong way. It was like nails on a chalkboard. His ego seemed to inflate with every headline, and instead of focusing on actually, boxing, he was more interested in staying in the spotlight at any cost. The more outrageous his behavior, the more the public started to see him not as a serious athlete, but as a loud, arrogant provocateur who was more interested in controversy than actually earning respect. And that's when the tables really started to turn. Jake Paul's verbal assaults on Mike Tyson have always been a bit like playing with fire, but on August 18, 2024, he didn't just play with it. He practically doused himself in gasoline and lit a match. During a press conference in New York, Jake decided to push the envelope in a way that only Jake Paul could. With cameras rolling and the world watching, he declared, "He's the greatest heavyweight of all time. But I will prove on November 15th that all the haters are wrong. All of these YouTuber hillbillies." The statement didn't just get under people's skin, it burrowed deep. I mean, here's a guy who's barely made a dent in the boxing world, standing there like he's about to rewrite the sport's history books. And he wasn't just talking smack. He was practically wiping his feet on Tyson's legacy in front of a crowd that was ready to riot. But of course, Jake didn't stop there. Why would he? In another jaw-dropping moment, he decided to mock Tyson's health issues. He actually said,
You had to go on your little menopause break and postpone the fight, so yeah. What about that, dog? I was ready before. You needed a little break. Your tummy hurt? Your tummy hurt still?
a guy who's barely wet behind the ears in the boxing world, poking fun at a legend who's been through wars both in and out of the ring. It wasn't just disrespectful, it was downright vicious. The fallout was immediate and brutal. The fans, who might have once been on the fence about Jake, were now firmly in the "we can't stand this guy" camp. The press conference venue practically shook with chants of,
Jake Paul, fuck Jake Paul.
Everyone who had ever laced up a pair of gloves. Mike Tyson, the man who once struck fear into the hearts of opponents worldwide, was now being publicly ridiculed by someone who hadn't even earned the right to tie Tyson's gloves. But Jake, being Jake, seemed to think that all publicity was good publicity. His ego was so inflated that he couldn't see the cliff he was racing towards. The stark contrast between Tyson's hard-earned legacy and Jake's cocky swagger only poured fuel on the fire. Fans weren't just annoyed anymore, they were angry. And that anger? It wasn't staying online. It was spilling over into the real world. Fast forward to September 1st, 10 days before the big fight. Jake Paul was walking down Sunset Boulevard, probably thinking about his next big headline, when reality came crashing down. Literally. Out of nowhere, a guy lunged at Jake, fists flying. The scene was absolute chaos. Witnesses watched in shock as this guy landed punch after punch before Jake's security could step in. One solid hit left Jake with a nasty bruise right near his eye, a mark that would remind him for weeks that maybe, just maybe, he'd pushed things too far. So, get this. After the dust settled and the guy who took a swing at Jake Paul was sitting in a police station, what do you think he had to say for himself? Well, if you guessed that his issue was the same as ours, you'd be spot on. The man straight up said that Jake Paul's mouth was the problem. And honestly, can you blame him? Jake's got a mouth that could start a war. It's like his most dangerous weapon, only it doesn't come with a safety switch, and boy has it stirred up some serious trouble. But when Jake decided to compare himself to Muhammad Ali, yeah, you heard that right, that's when things went from bad to "you've got to be kidding me" territory. As he said, the most hated and most criticized boxer in the sport of boxing before they loved him was Muhammad Ali. So I'm the anti-hero, and people will love me soon enough once they realize what I've done for this sport and who I truly am.
Boxer in the sport of boxing before they loved him was Muhammad Ali. So I'm the anti-hero, and people will love me soon enough once they realize what I've done for this sport and who I truly am.
I mean, come on. Comparing himself to Muhammad Ali? That's not just crossing a line, that's taking a sledgehammer to it. People were absolutely livid. We're talking about Muhammad Ali here, a man who wasn't just a boxer, but a symbol of greatness. A global icon whose legacy is untouchable. Ali wasn't just about floating like a butterfly and stinging like a bee. He stood for something bigger than himself, both inside and outside the ring. And then there's Jake Paul, who most people see as just some loudmouth YouTuber trying to hitch a ride on the coattails of legends. It's like comparing a pop song to Beethoven. It just doesn't work. The backlash was immediate and intense. Ali's fans were up in arms, and social media exploded with people telling Jake exactly what they thought of his little comparison. And it wasn't just the fans. Even the boxing community, which had tolerated Jake's antics up to this point, couldn't let this one slide. Comparing himself to Ali, that was sacrilege. Muhammad Ali fought for everything, struggled, triumphed, and sacrificed in ways Jake Paul could never begin to understand. For Jake to even think he was in the same league, well, that was enough to make people lose it. And as if the public wasn't angry enough, Mike Tyson, yeah, that Mike Tyson, the guy Jake's been poking at for months, finally decided he'd had enough. He shot back with, "Be in shape, be in good shape because your health depends on it." The boxing community wasn't about to let that slide either. Eddie Hearn, one of the most respected promoters in the sport, chimed in the very next day. During an interview with Sky Sports, he didn't hold back. "Everyone's entitled to have a dream. No, seriously, I'm being serious. I think there's absolutely no way he can beat a world champion and become world champion."
World champion?
Everyone's entitled to have a dream. No, seriously, I'm being serious. I think there's absolutely no way he can beat a world champion and become world champion.
Now, when a guy like Eddie Hearn, who's been around the block promoting the biggest names in boxing, says you've got no shot, you might want to reconsider your life choices. Hearn's words were a cold, hard reality check. He's been in the business long enough to know what it takes to be a champion. And to him, Jake Paul's dream was just that. A dream, with zero chance of becoming reality. Now let's talk about the guy who threw those punches on Jake. Turns out, he wasn't just some random thug. His name's Mark Williams, a 32-year-old die-hard boxing fan who practically grew up idolizing Tyson.
You don't want to fight.
I never have
You don't want to fight.
Whoa.
Don't reveal the face of Neeraj, as the title says, stranger. And according to reports, Williams had finally had enough of Jake's mouth. He told the police that he just wanted to teach Jake Paul a lesson for all the disrespect he'd shown to a man like Tyson. This wasn't some random act of violence, this was a calculated, deliberate act of retribution by someone who was fed up with Jake's antics. As Williams was hauled off in handcuffs, it became clear that this was more than just another wild chapter in Jake Paul's controversial career. It was a wake-up call, not just for Jake, but for everyone watching. And honestly, Jake's definitely not going to let this slide, especially since the whole thing was caught on camera and is all over the internet. It was a serious hit to his pride. What happens next? Well, we'll just have to wait and see what Jake's next move is. So, if you're as curious as I am, don't forget to hit that subscribe button below and give this video a like.